he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open. His head wide open. Cracked open in the face.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Marsielle 2100 back in with another episode of How's My Team. So we're going to go over a few things. Obviously, we've got the Wanderers men's team up against Perth Glory at home on Sunday, and we also got the Wanderers women that played against Central Coast Mariners on Saturday. We've also got a double header of Liverpool games because obviously the Champions League was also being played. They played against Marsielle in the Champions League as well as Bournemouth in the Premier League, and then we might go over the Seattle Seahawks in the NFC Championship game against the LA Rams. So we'll get to that when we get to that, but let's start with the episode. So let's start with Liverpool, or at least the first part of Liverpool's week, because obviously the second game hasn't played yet. It's Friday morning when I'm actually recording this, the day after this game was being played. But we had Champions League action in the middle of the week this week. Liverpool going away to Marsielle to play against Marsielle in the second last game of the group stages. I feel an eyelash in my eye. In the group stages of the Champions League. Very crucial game for both teams in the wake of trying to stay obviously out of the bottom eight, but also to try and see if they can get into the top eight with automatic qualification into the last 16 of the Champions League competition. And it was a 3-0 win to Liverpool over Marsielle. Fantastic game for Liverpool. It was 1-0 at half-time. So we ended up having a VAR disallowed a goal for Hugo in the 24th minute. But Dominic ended up scoring the first minute of stoppage time before half-time. So, leaving it pretty late, but, what else can you do? So it was pretty even for most part during the game. And then it was an own goal in the 72nd minute to Geronimo Rulli. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. It's got a little bit of inflection lines on top of the O in Geronimo, so it might not be how that's pronounced, but so I apologise. But it was an own goal for the second goal, and then the second minute of stoppage time before full time, Cody Gakpo scored the third goal, which actually will help Liverpool a lot. With that win, obviously we move up in the table because there was a lot of results going our way earlier in the competition earlier that week, because Man City dropped points, Atletico Madrid dropped points, Inter Milan, Borussia Dortmund around our position also dropped points as well. So Liverpool with that move up to 4th position with 15 points. And +6 on our goal difference is probably the more important thing, because 3 goals being added to our goal difference is fantastic. I think that in general is going to help us in the long run, because I think if we do win our next game, obviously our last game at home against Karabag, we have automatic qualification into the top 8, into the last 16 of the competition. If we draw, if we lose, it leaves up to chance then that we could possibly get knocked out. But with the fact that we got, we're 6 goals in the good in terms of goal difference, in terms of the positive, that kind of helps things, because obviously with teams that are on 12 points, Inter Milan and Juventus, those two teams, like Inter Milan got 6 goals, So they'd have to win by a lot. Juventus would have to win by 3 or more. And there's a lot of teams obviously on 13 points and that, but to knock out from where we are, a lot of things would have to go against us, and obviously we'd have to lose by a couple to be any shot of getting knocked out of the top 8 because we're in 4th position right now. So as it stands into the last week of the regular Champions League season, we're talking about like the group stages. So Arsenal still on top with 21 points from 7 games, so they've won every game. So they've played the Liverpool from last year card in the Champions League by winning every game so far. Second is Bayern Munich on 18, so they're a game behind. Real Madrid move up to 3rd position with 15 points. Liverpool also there on 15 points in 4th. It's just goal difference there. It's just a difference of 5 goals in that, which is funny because obviously we won against Real Madrid in like the first couple of weeks of the Champions League, so they made it a hell of a lot harder for Real Madrid. But yeah, they moved up to 3rd position. Obviously Liverpool, like I said, in 4th position. 5th position is Tottenham Hotspur in 14 with 14. Crazy result considering where they are in the Premier League table right now. They've kind of turned it around a little bit in the Champions League, and realistically, when it comes to Thomas Frank's job, who knows? It might go week to week, but you can blame that all the way back to Ange Postecoglou getting sacked by Daniel Levy and the board at Tottenham. Despite winning a trophy, yes, being in a bad position in the Premier League, but winning a trophy the first time in a long time for the club, and then just getting rid of the coach, before any real changes can come through, and then obviously having the player exodus after that, with a few players disappearing. I think Son Hyun Kim, I think was what his name was. Son, obviously the guy that played for Tottenham for like a decade. One of their biggest stars in the last like 4 or 5 years. I don't think he possibly would have moved to MLS without Ange leaving or like getting sacked from his manager position of Tottenham. I think maybe there would have been consideration of him trying to stay at Tottenham to try and see if they could do a lot better, win another trophy maybe for Tottenham. So realistically, a lot of the results that's happening to them, and honestly, like I think that Thomas Frank is a good coach, like a good manager. I think it's just been put into obviously the line of fire because obviously he's in one of the big 6 teams in the Premier League. So obviously his position in terms of where he's sitting is going to be very hot for a very long time. There's a lot of expectation there as well, so it's a bit hard for him to turn things around when some of the players are not playing well. Now, ultimately, some of it is on him, obviously, because he is the manager and he's, like the head coach, basically, of the club. But in saying that, it's not all on him as well, because obviously these issues have been happening for a while and the results are about the same with a different coach. So it's not necessarily just the coach as well, because they're in maybe slightly better position than they were last year around this time in the last season. But a lot of things can happen with Tottenham. 6th position is PSG. They dropped a game. They dropped points this week on Wednesday. I think it was Tuesday night. They dropped a position, which makes the next game for them very important. And speaking on their opponents, in 7th position is Newcastle United, with 13 points, both on the same goal difference as PSG. I think PSG have scored more goals than Newcastle have. In fact, they have by 4 goals. It's 20 20 goals for PSG, 16 in the competition for Newcastle, but Newcastle have only conceded 6, so they're actually in a good state of mind and haven't had like a blowout in any form, but they play each other in the last week of the group stages, so that's going to be very interesting because I think at that point that's almost an elimination in terms of which team goes to the round of 16, barring obviously some crazy shenanigans. And in that position, they're in 6th and 7th position, so they both could get knocked out before they even play against each other. But 3 points there for either team will be a huge difference, and in fact, will probably lock their position in to the top 8. And then rounding out the top 8 is Chelsea, also on 13 points. They're just behind in terms of goal difference. A lot of these teams coming up are all on 13 points anyway. We're looking from 6th down to 13th position are all on 13 points right now. So 9th position is Barcelona. 10th position is Sporting CP, who actually won against Manchester City. And speaking on Manchester City, they're down in 11th position. Atletico Madrid dropped to 12th position. And Atalanta dropped to 13th position. So realistically, the 6th, 7th, 8th positions in the top 8 all dropped out of the top, and a lot of the teams that were in there either moved positions or some teams from outside jumped in, like say Liverpool did as well. 14th position is Inter Milan, 15th position with 12 points. 15th is Juventus, also on 12 points. 16th position is Borussia Dortmund. They actually dropped quite a bit. So I'm assuming that they also lost in their game as well. It wasn't a great position for them because they were like right behind Liverpool in 10th position, and they dropped 6 positions with a loss. Or at least, if it was not a loss, it was a draw, and that costed them dearly. In fact, actually, let me have a look. It was a loss. And they play Inter Milan as well in their last group stage, so that's going to be very important for them. Because I think they've got, Borussia Dortmund, they're hanging on the edge. They could get knocked out. They've got a +4 in terms of goal difference, so it'd have to be like a huge swing the other way for Inter Milan, for Borussia Dortmund to actually drop out at this point, but it's still possible. Obviously, they're on 11 points. The team in 25th position is like 8 points, so it's it is a win, but it's obviously going to be a heavier win because they've the team that is in 25th position has got -5 on their goal difference. So it is one of those things where it kind of they kind of have to get really smashed. 17th position is the team that I can never mention their name because I can't say it properly. They're on 10 points. Karabag also won. They actually dropped out of even the playoff stage before their game yesterday. So they were out and got a win, so they jumped back in. Karabag also got 10 in 18th position. 19th position is Marsielle with 9 points, so obviously they kind of switched positions, and obviously Marsielle dropped quite a few because they were in 12th position, I think, in the lead up to this game against Liverpool and dropped out. 20th position is Leverkusen, also on 9 points. 21st position is Monaco. They actually lost to Juventus on I think it was an own goal. I think, if memory serves me right, it was an own goal, and it was not great for them, so they're hanging on the edge right now. 22nd position is PSV. 23rd position is Athletic Club. I think Athletic Club also got a win as well, I think, if memory serves, as well as PSV. There's a few teams down here that I'm like, there's some that have won, some of them that have lost. 24th position, Olympiacos. I think that's how it is. 25th position, as I mentioned earlier, that's Napoli. Copenhagen's down here. Club Brugge's down here. Bodo Glimt in 28th position. They actually won. They actually won against Manchester City, I should say. Yeah, Sporting CP also knocked off. I think they knocked off PSG. I think so. Some of those teams really kind of work things out. Um, Beneficia. Actually, I think Beneficia actually might have been the team that played against Juventus. I can't even remember half the teams. Ajax 32nd position. Iron Track Frankfurt down in 33rd. Villarreal CF down to 35th, and Kairat also on the bottom. I think first position and last position play in the last round, I'm pretty sure. So I think Arsenal play the last team in the competition. Yeah, they do. So it's not an ideal position for Kairat. So obviously they're knocked out, and obviously playing against the team that's in first right now. Not ideal for them, but obviously we look ahead. 3-0 is a great result. Obviously, at this point in time, we look ahead to the Bournemouth game, and then also the game against Karabag on Thursday coming up in the Champions League, because that's going to be very, very vital. Because a win will set us into the top 8. A draw or a loss, we'll still be in the playoff stage, but it is not a stage that you kind of want to be in, because especially if you do end up winning, there is a possibility, obviously, we could go against a really good team. It just depends on the position of the top 8. I forget if it's the top, if, say, the top positions play the highest positions, or whether it's the lowest seeding positions in terms of 9th through the 24th, if they win their playoff game, play the knockout game, which team plays which team in the top 8. I forget on how it does it. I'm pretty sure the bracket is 1 to 8, and then the lowest seed plays number 1, and it goes from lowest to highest in terms of what's left after the playoff game to play against the top 8 for the final 16. I forget on how they actually break it down. I do have the bracket in a photo somewhere from last season, and I'm not sure which way it goes, because some finals games it's your highest seed plays lowest seed, which obviously the NFL, speaking on the NFL, that's how they do it. Obviously then Seattle was the number 1 seed. They had to wait to see who was the lowest seed out of the teams to play, and obviously that ended up being San Francisco. There's a lot of competitions that do it weird ways in terms of promotion and a bracket type thing like that. And I always forget in terms of the Champions League, because I think they do their own thing, on whether it's the same or whether it's different. I forget, because obviously the playoff fixture, obviously the playoff round, and then obviously the automatic qualification's only been in since last year. So since last season, so it's kind of throwing things through a loop a little bit. But yeah, looking forward to the game against Bournemouth. Obviously in the Premier League, we're, yes, in 4th position, but we need to close in on the top 3. And then Bournemouth obviously trying to raise up the ladder in the Premier League as well. But 3-0 win over Marsielle in the Champions League. Great result. Obviously pushes us into 4th position as well in the Champions League with 1 game to go. And we're in a good state of mind, I think, leading into last game to possibly stay in the top 8 and see where we are in terms of position. We might stay where we are depending on obviously the other results. But I think obviously Arsenal will be on top, even with a loss, if they just rest their players. Bayern Munich, I think, are around the same position. In fact, it might just go down to goal difference in terms of that, in terms of those two teams, because Bayern Munich are a win behind Arsenal, but obviously if they do get the win and then Arsenal, rest their players and they lose, it'll just go down to goal difference then for being at the top. And then obviously Real Madrid on the same points as Liverpool, we'll see what happens with that. Because, it could come down to goal difference in the end if we pick up a point or no points at all. And then it'll put us in a very, very nervous state. But thankfully, at least the game that we're playing is on Thursday, because I think some of the results we'll know on Wednesday night, their time. It'll be, I'll know by Wednesday morning, because a lot of them will play Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, very early my time. And then obviously like the Liverpool game, some of them will play on Thursday morning and Wednesday night. So we'll know at least half of the results and what Liverpool really need to do on Tuesday, probably around actually when this video actually goes up officially. I'll know what the results will be going into the next round. In fact, around this time, when this video does go up. But 3-0 against Marsielle. Sorry, I probably rambled a little bit, but we'll get over to the next section. Obviously, we'll talk about Liverpool probably right after this. I'll just add the Bournemouth section to the next part of this video, and then we'll go from there. But 3-0 win against Marsielle away from home in the Champions League, and in a good state of mind in terms of the Champions League and what remains of the group stage. Alright, so we're back with Liverpool. It's Sunday afternoon. It's roughly around 98, 99 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius right now as I'm recording this. So I'm going to try and make this and the next segment I'm going to record short. It is going to be a scorcher today, and it has been like that for like the past couple of days. It's been predicted, and it is a little bit hotter than I thought it was going to be, because it ended up getting up to 39 degrees Celsius. I think the high was supposed to be 36 to 37. So we're going to make this quick, and we're going to continue on talking about Liverpool. Obviously, they had the high that was the 3-0 win against Marseille in the Champions League, and they got grounded down to earth with a 3-2 loss against Bournemouth. So once again, they have not recorded a win at all in 2026, whether it be at home or away in the Premier League, which, is not a great result at all. I was up around halftime around this game. It wasn't too warm last night in terms of me sleeping, but I'd gotten up the last couple of days. I've had some pain in my jaw as well, which hasn't helped things, but obviously it has been a bit warm, or a bit, I think my body temperature's been a little bit all over the place the last couple of days as well. Felt a bit faint yesterday morning, so that didn't help things in general. So I was up around a little bit before halftime, I think around about when Bournemouth actually scored their second goal in the first half. And I was up until probably 10 minutes into the second half. So I didn't really watch the rest of it, didn't really keep up with the results. Don't know why I'm yawning, because I'm not that tired. I didn't really see the results of the second and third goal scored in the second half, because it was 2 in the second half that was scored. Bournemouth scored in the 26th minute, and also in the 33rd minute. Then Virgil van Dijk actually scored in the 45th minute, just before stoppage time started in the first half. So that was great, especially for a defender to score like that. Obviously kept it to 2-1 at half time. Then Dominic scored again, seems to be scoring a lot. In the 80th minute, so it ended up being 2-2. And basically on the last kick of the game, again in stoppage time, in the 5th minute stoppage time, Bournemouth scored their third goal. And like I said, it was basically on the last kick of the game. Again, Liverpool have fallen to their own defensive woes again, because that's not a good result for them. Ultimately, it is a situation that needs to be rectified a lot, because that is something that has been happening a lot this season. with their defense. We haven't had too many clean sheets this year as well, which hasn't helped things. Obviously, in the Premier League, I'm speaking more so than in the Champions League, because obviously we just got one literally earlier this week. Obviously, Marsielle was returning for this game as well. Obviously, I think he played in the Champions League game against Marsielle as well. But obviously, he's back from AFCON duty, and he was playing. He didn't play that well in this game as well, which didn't help things. So currently at the moment, Liverpool's still in 4th position at the moment. There are a few games around the mix that need to happen that could drop Liverpool quite a few places, especially on goal difference as well. So ultimately the big one, Manchester United are in 5th position still, behind Liverpool by 1 point. But they do play against Arsenal tomorrow morning, my time. So if they end up getting a win or a draw against Arsenal, they will jump to 4th position, and Liverpool will drop to 5th position. Chelsea have also still got to play as well. They're on 34 points. And I think they play Crystal Palace as well. So if they do get a win out of that, they'll jump as well. There's a few teams in and around the mix that haven't played: Brentford, Newcastle, Everton, Leeds and Nottingham Forest. There's a few teams in there. Aston Villa is also another one. So that gap could widen between 3rd and 4th position if other results do go Liverpool's way, like Man United losing, or Chelsea also losing, that sort of thing. But I doubt it. I feel like when it comes to Liverpool, they'll drop to 6th or 7th position in terms of results, because Chelsea have obviously got Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are doing reasonably okay. Obviously, they're doing 15th position right now, obviously with the game in hand. Manchester United obviously in 5th position. Against Arsenal, obviously it's big clash between two of the big 6 clubs in the competition. Were pretty notable results so far. Obviously, Man City did beat Wolves. Wolves are still on 8 points, though, so that is a good, decent result for them. I thought it was going to be a bit cagey for them. I think they only lost 2-0, so it actually wasn't too much of a blowout for Wolves at that point, especially after the week that Manchester City has had. Sunderland went down to West Ham as well. So West Ham are 2 points outside, 2 points inside the relegation zone. They're 2 points behind Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Nottingham Forest have a game in hand, but that points difference between those two clubs is not unfeasible for West Ham to get out of the position that they're in, to get out of the relegation zone. Obviously, I will give you an updated total, or like a table, after everything when I get to the end of this video, just because obviously, like I said, a lot of the other games have not played yet. But 3-2 loss for Liverpool, not ideal. Obviously, big week coming up this week, obviously with Champions League, with Karabag obviously on Thursday, then a game against Newcastle United as well, before we head into a Monday game the next week against Manchester City. So that's going to be a huge clash there as well. Obviously Newcastle at this point is in 9th position, but again with a win, and they play, if I look at the full table, Newcastle play Aston Villa, so that's actually going to be a really big, crucial clash for both clubs. Realistically, Aston Villa trying to keep in contention with the top 2, obviously still probably staying at 3rd position, obviously in terms of goal difference, but obviously trying to keep in line with the top 3, and obviously Newcastle trying to break in to the top 6, because obviously they're in 9th position. Obviously want to break into that top 4 position if a lot of things go their way, because they have a +5 goal difference right now as well. So if they do end up winning, that could be 6, 7, 8 goals in the good. and that will jump them, obviously, apart from obviously Man United possibly winning and Chelsea winning, it'll jump Liverpool at least. So Liverpool could drop another position because of that game as well. But yeah, not ideal for Liverpool. Obviously, very much a high in the Champions League. With realistically, I think if we do get a draw out of, if we get a win against Karabag, we're into the top 8. I think with a draw, it's possible that we still could get knocked out into the playoff stage. With a loss, we definitely could be on the verge of a playoff spot instead of a automatic qualification in the round of 16 in the Champions League. And then obviously a big game against Newcastle United in the Premier League, which, 2 games at home at Anfield. Actually, the next 3 games are at Anfield. With that Man City game also being at Anfield as well. But yeah, big conference of games at home at Anfield for Liverpool, and hopefully they get a good result out of it. And I guess to compensate for Liverpool losing in the Premier League, one team had to win, and it was the Wanderers women's team. Yes, the Wanderers women finally have won a second game for their season. First time in quite a few weeks that they've won. It was a 2-1 win over Central Coast Mariners, so obviously last year's champions in the A-League women's competition. And, they were in 3rd position as well, the Mariners, leading into this game. So very big result for them, more so than it is for the Wanderers. But I guess even for the Wanderers, it is a big result because obviously second win on the trot. And I watched a lot of this game, especially after the second goal. They defended like hell. I watched pretty much up until the last 15-20 minutes. I had to do something yesterday while the game was going on, so I was watching most of it. And they defended pretty well. Holly Caspers ended up scoring a double. 1 goal in the first half, 1 goal in the second half. Both goals actually led up to really good play from Holly Caspers, but even the pass on the first goal actually broke the line of the defence of Central Coast really well. So we scored, Holly scored in the 35th minute for the Wanderers. Then about 6 minutes later, Central Coast did score against some really poor defence, mind you. And obviously they put their hands up to say that she was offside. She was not offside. She was onside. She was played onside by the last defender. And realistically, a lot of defence was pretty horrible in that lead up to that goal. But apart from that, they pretty much in the second half, I think, defended really well. The pressure, the possession really was in the first half was really kind of against the Wanderers for a lot of it. They did end up having a lot of ball towards the end of that first half, even with the goal being scored. The possession I think was 65 plus to Central Coast and 30 to 35% for the Wanderers. The possession, I think, ended up probably being around half. Actually, even just looking at the max performance, 62% for the Mariners, 38% for the Wanderers. So our shooting accuracy was down. They were 40% Mariners, 36% for the Wanderers. But it was a situation where the Wanderers ended up scoring the 57th minute and just held out. And that was great. That is a great result for them, especially after obviously the draw against Canberra United and the draw last week that we ended up having against Brisbane. Very late in that game, kind of tempered a lot of flares and everything like that. It was not an ideal result, obviously, for the Wanderers after holding on for so long in that game to come away with a draw. Yes, it was a point, but basically on one of the last kicks of the game or one of the last possession-filled plays of the game, end up getting a goal scored against and obviously conceding a goal to make it a draw rather than a win very late in the game is very, kind of disheartening for a club, especially when they haven't been doing really well. Obviously now they're in a good position. They've won their second game. they've played relatively well. I will say that obviously Chloe Lagazzo / Berry Hill obviously ruptured her ACL last game, so she was supposed to retire at the end of this season, obviously making a run for the Australian side for the Women's Asian Cup competition that's playing in a couple of months in Australia. And obviously she ruptured her ACL, so she's medically been forced to retire, obviously with the ACL injury, so it's unfortunate that her career ends this way. It's not a way that you really want your career to end, but especially when you're trying to fight for a spot in the national side in any form or fashion, in any competition. It's just, it's one of those things that's kind of really disheartening. But when it comes to the Wanderers, obviously there's a couple of games still to go when it comes to the A-League Women, so obviously I will give an updated result on the table. They do have obviously a Big Blue with Victory and Sydney FC to play around now, actually, when I'm recording this. And then obviously that'll be the end of this round. Then a round 10 clash in the catch-up game with Perth and Sydney FC will be played on Wednesday, 28th. So it'll be just after this video goes up. Like, it'll be a few hours after this video goes up my time. And they'll be played in the West with Newcastle Jets having the bye. So there's a few results going around with the women. But the Wanderers have closed in the gap between second last and last. They're now 1 point behind, obviously, with that game leading into today, which I just got a notification just started in terms of result for Sydney FC and Melbourne Victory. So Big Blue, obviously big result for both clubs, one being in 7th position, the other being in 10th position, and hopefully Sydney FC do lose, because if they lose by a decent chunk, they're in striking line of even a draw being a situation where if they lose by a lot today, the Wanderers are still minus 13 in terms of goal difference. As for Sydney FC, they've only scored 6 goals so far this year, whereas the Wanderers women finally got over the hump of scoring in double digits this game as well. So they're up to 11 goals this year, minus 24, with Sydney FC at the moment being 6 and 14, so obviously minus 8 there. So even with a point, obviously as a draw, maybe next game for Wanderers, they still won't be off the bottom, but obviously if Sydney FC have 2 losses, obviously Perth being in 9th position at the moment, and obviously Melbourne Victory being 7th position at the moment, with obviously other results still to come, obviously with the games that they're going to play and Sydney FC are going to play. Who knows what their top 6 is going to look like and the rest of the table. So it's going to be very interesting. Obviously the next game for the Wanderers women's team, if we go to round 15, is a Sydney derby on the 31st. So Sydney FC, the women's team, will be playing 3 games in the space of about a week, because they'll be playing today, obviously when I'm recording, as I'm recording right now. They'll be playing on Wednesday, and then obviously playing again on Saturday at Allianz, and that's going to be a double header, because that's going to be a double Sydney derby, because obviously the men's matchup is also next week as well, and it's the later game, obviously, of the 2, and pretty interesting situation, because obviously it'll be a bottom of the table clash. If Sydney FC do lose both of their games, obviously today and obviously against Perth, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because the Wanderers are in a good state of mind, obviously, and they got a good result, obviously, last time round with a draw, when Sydney FC were closer towards the top 6, when compared to where they are now, which is really much in no man's land. But yeah, Good result, obviously, for the Wanderers. 2-1 win over Central Coast Mariners, last year's champions of the league. Yeah, good state of mind, especially away from home. Good result for them. It's been a win that's been a long time coming. So, yeah, great job. And now we move on to the Wanderers men's team. I'm going to make this quick because I've got to go to work pretty shortly. But the Wanderers played last night. They played against Perth Glory at home. And it ended up being a 1-0 win. So we finally got a win. I will say over last weekend, and we missed this, Alan Stadcic actually was sacked as head coach of the Wanderers. So yeah, we had a new coach in, Gary Van Egmond, I think was his name, or something very similar to that. He coached the Jets when the Jets won their last competition in the A-League, so he is a premiership winning coach, and he's a decent coach at that. I think he's been doing a lot of the coaching for maybe some of the women's teams lately as well, maybe even the Matildas, obviously, which is the Australian national side for the women's game. But yeah, 1-0 win, and it was very late into the game. We did have a new signing coming from England, Ryan Fraser, and he ended up scoring. He ended up scoring the second minute of stoppage time before full time. It was a great strike, very chaotic in the box. When the shot come through, but I hear that the Wanderers were pretty aggressive in the second half, especially. He missed at least a shot that was very lovely, like a very lovely save. Stopped another shot, probably a couple of minutes earlier from Ryan Fraser as well, by the goalkeeper. So could have ended up being like 2-0 as well. So it's 56% possession for the Wanderers compared to 44% for Perth Glory. So fantastic result. Needed a win, obviously leading into the Sydney Derby doubleheader this week coming up. Obviously, excuse me. I will give an updated tables result because I think there's supposed to be another game today. Actually, no, that's the women's. No. Sorry, I'm watching the NFL at the same time. Yeah, so there's a big blue today. Melbourne Victory and Sydney FC are both playing each other today. So we'll give an updated table results eventually, but the Wanderers do move up to 11th at this point in time. Obviously getting the win. Central Coast actually getting a draw earlier this week against Auckland FC, which is a big result, but there's a few results I do want to talk about when it comes down to the end of this video, and obviously the miscellaneous stuff. Do eventually want to talk about that tomorrow, then we can sort that out, because yeah, we'll give an updated result table on the A-League men's, the A-League women's. I know the women's obviously will be updated probably around about the time that like a few hours after I upload this video. When this video goes live, there will be a game after, a couple of minutes after. Oh, sorry, I should say a couple of hours after. But yeah, 1-0 win, needed that. Obviously the Wanderers, need to keep scoring goals because it's pretty pitiful in terms of how many goals they've scored this year. But hopefully Ryan Fraser is somebody that can help with that. Obviously he has in the first game that he's played. He's had a couple of shots on goal. If we can get some of our new signings in and playing really well, then I feel like that'll be great for all of us. And hopefully we can get some more goals flowing through this team. So 1-0 win over Perth Glory moves us on the bottom of the ladder for now at the moment. But I will give you an updated total on the table very shortly because not all the games are played, but by the time I record the next part, at least on the men's side, all of them will be played. So yeah, 1-0 win for the Wanderers. Let's go. And we're back with the last segment to end out the video of this episode of How's My Team. Again, I would like to apologise. I am recording this after I did my upload and did my update video the other day on the fact that this video was getting delayed yesterday. It's officially Wednesday, so it'd normally be the day that I upload this. In fact, the last game, the catch-up game between Sydney FC and Perth Glory will be playing tonight, so that's in terms of recording this. Obviously this video will be up probably on Friday, I think it is, my time, so it'll be Thursday, so it'll be a late upload. In fact, it'd be the same day as obviously the game in the Champions League against Qarabag for Liverpool. And speaking on Liverpool, just give an updated table. They dropped down to 6th position, so in terms of positions, Arsenal still in first place with 50 points. Second is Manchester City with 46. Aston Villa also on 46 in third position, so 4 points being the difference there, with Arsenal obviously losing to Man United. So Man United jumped into 4th position with 38 points. Chelsea jumped into 5th position with 37. Then Liverpool in 6th position with 36. Fulham jumped to 7th position with 34. Brentford dropped to 8th position with 33. Also Newcastle also on 33 points. In fact, there's a big group here that have got 33 points. 10th is Everton and 11th is Sunderland. They're all on 33. Then there's a jump down to 12th position with Brighton with 30. And then also Bournemouth also on 30 points in 13th position, obviously with the win over Liverpool very late in that game. Then we talk about 14th position is Tottenham Hotspurs. Then 15th position is Crystal Palace with 28 points each. Then 16th position is Leeds United with 26. Nottingham Forest in 17th position with 25. Then West Ham in the relegation zones still with 20 points. In 18th position, 19th position is Burnley with 15, and then on the bottom still is Wolverhampton Wolves. As for the Champions League, that has not moved. I think that Liverpool's still in 4th position, leading into the game against Qarabag on Thursday. Now, as for the A-League, we'll switch over to the A-League men's. It's Auckland FC back on top with 25 points. Newcastle jump into 2nd position with 24, and also an extra game to play yet. I think there's a few catch-up games. Obviously, there's a few teams that have played 15 games, a few teams that have played 14. So then Sydney FC is one that played 13, so they've got 2 games to catch up on. But yeah, Newcastle Jets in 2nd position with 24. MacArthur Bulls in 3rd position with 23. Sydney FC with obviously the loss in the Big Blue, and it was a big loss in that. It was 4-0 was the loss there, and a few goals that were overturned by VAR as well, so it could have actually ended up being more, could have been less, and Sydney FC could have got on the board as well. They dropped to 4th position with 22 points. 5th position is Adelaide, also on 22 points, just goal difference being the difference there. Though it's not that big of a difference between the two, obviously with that dropping at the hands of Sydney FC by Melbourne Victory. 6th position is Brisbane Roar with 21. 7th position is Melbourne Victory with 20. Then Melbourne City is also on 20 points in 8th position. 9th position is Wellington Phoenix on 18. 10th position is Perth Glory on 16 points. 11th position is the Western Sydney Wanderers on 15. And last position is Central Coast Mariners with 13. As for the women, there's not too much change. Obviously, there's a few teams that have jumped and switched positions, but not many compared to the men's. So it's Melbourne City back on top with 23 points. In second position is Wellington Phoenix on 18 points, in front of Canberra United, who dropped to third position, also on 18 points. And also on 18 points is Brisbane Roar in fourth position, as well as Central Coast Mariners in fifth position. So anyone that could lose there could drop, because ultimately some of the positions down further. Obviously Melbourne Victory in sixth position with 17. Adelaide also on 17 points in seventh position. Newcastle Jets in eighth position with 16. Perth Glory in ninth position with 16 points. So any of those teams that win over the teams in front of them, they could jump well into the top four, and if not into second position, depending on obviously their goal difference. And then on the bottom, in 10th position is Sydney FC with 11, and not far behind them on 9 points is the Western Sydney Wanderers in 11th position. So there's a lot of changes there. Very big games obviously coming up. Obviously doubleheader for Sydney Derby in terms of the Wanderers. Liverpool obviously got their last Champions League game, and also got against Newcastle United in the Premier League as well. But yeah, last Champions League group stage game for Liverpool, so that's going to be a big game for them in deciding on whether they're going to go for automatic qualification to the round of 16, or whether they have to play a playoff game against somebody near the bottom, I would assume. And again, not sure how it stacks up, but it's going to be against a tough opponent, you would think, especially it might even be travel as well for Liverpool, so we'll see what happens, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Obviously, we'll talk about the NFL as well. Obviously, they just had the games on Monday morning for me, Sunday obviously for the US, and thankfully there were some good games there, some really tough games in terms of that. Ultimately, on the AFC side of things, it was 10 points to 7 win for the Patriots over the Denver Broncos. It could have been a hell of a lot more, and in fact, actually, the Patriots probably should have actually belted them by a lot more than that. But the defenses for both teams are relatively solid, if not pretty damn good. Probably the two best defenses, I think, in the AFC, especially Denver. Denver, a lot of their defense has actually picked up some snuff for, obviously, for the offense, maybe not playing as well. And speaking on the other game, obviously my Seattle Seahawks were in play. They're playing against division rivals against the LA Rams, and they ended up winning. They won in the NFC Championship game, 31 points to 27, so it was a 4-point win. Makes it 4-0 in terms of championship games. That the Seahawks have actually, that's their record. So they haven't actually lost an NFC Championship game if they've made it there, which is fantastic. Either way, in terms of obviously Seattle winning, obviously yes, they do go against the Patriots in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks' time. Or actually be a week and a half when this video goes up. But no matter what the result was on the other side, it was going to be a replay of either Super Bowl 48 or 49. Obviously, the Super Bowl win that obviously Seattle got was against the Denver Broncos, way back when obviously Peyton Manning was still playing for them. And then obviously 49, which obviously was the back-to-back year for Seattle, at least a chance to go back-to-back, went against obviously Tom Brady and the Patriots. And if you know anything about the Super Bowl and the Seattle Seahawks, and especially against the Patriots, obviously it's a play to win the game on the 1 yard line, and they decide to pass instead of running the ball, Seattle, and it gets intercepted for a loss in the Super Bowl and a very close win for the Patriots in that. So obviously it's a rematch of Super Bowl 49 in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium in San Francisco. So we can't actually have a home field advantage there because we've actually played there at least once a year, once a season, if not multiple times in a season. Because obviously we play against the 49ers. It's the 49ers at home, obviously division rivals there. so we play there pretty regularly. So hopefully it'll be more of a home field advantage for us, less travel as well. Obviously, it's a huge game. Obviously, a huge rematch game against the Patriots, obviously, with that Super Bowl history that we've had. But ultimately, it's going to be tough. Patriots have got a good defense. We've also got a really good defense as well. So I think it's going to be a lot played on the line. And hopefully they can get the win. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of How's My Team. This has been Mario Man 2100. You guys have a great day and night. And of course, take care. And the fucking Seahawks are going to the fucking Super Bowl again. Let's go! Oh, and I almost forgot a little addendum to the end of the episode. Obviously, I'm in my plain clothes now, but I almost forgot to actually mention this. The Liverpool women, I know I don't talk about them much. Obviously, they ended up having some good games, had some pretty bad games this year. They actually got their first win. They got their first win the other day, 2-0 win over the Tottenham Hotspur. And it was very late in near stoppage time when they ended up getting the goal, and 4th minute stoppage time, I should say. And then immediately off the kickoff, there was a slip by one of the Tottenham players off the kickoff, and one of the Liverpool players ended up jumping on the ball and scored their second. So ended up scoring a brace. So it was a 2-0 win. Obviously for them, they're still on the bottom, but they're 1 point outside of, I'm assuming, what's the relegation zone for them, but I don't know. There is a border between second last and last position in that competition, so I'm assuming so. But I don't know. I'm not sure, but yeah, first win on the year for Liverpool for the women. So it's 1 year. It's 1 win for the season for them. 2 wins, obviously, for the Wanderers women. Up and up for a lot of the teams that I'm following right now. Just sucks that obviously Liverpool, the men's side, had to lose in the Premier League. Otherwise, it would have been a perfect week for me. So yeah, but just a little addendum. Just thought I'd put that in there because you got to celebrate the wins however they come, and from whatever teams that I do follow. And obviously the women have gone through a lot this year, this season so far. Props to them for keeping in there, getting a few draws this year against some good opponents, but obviously that one, getting the monkey off the back for the win. And they played relatively well in the 10-15 minutes I was watching, plus stoppage time. So hopefully they play a lot better, and hopefully get a few more wins on the board and kind of move up the ladder, because that'd be great for them. I think that'd be after what they've had for the start of the year. Start of the season, I should say. I think that they deserve that. 2-0 win for them as well. So, another cool result on top of that. So, thanks, guys.